All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call to order the Capital Area Tolling Authority meeting of Wednesday, December 17th. It is now 10 o'clock, and to lead us off for the Pledge of Allegiance, Andrea, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, so Robert, we can establish a quorum.
All right, directors, when I call your name, please indicate your presence. Director Wong for Aceves.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Vice Chair Early. Absent. Chair Villegas.
Present.
Ex officio members Click.
Here.
No. Deloria.
Here.
And Talamantes. Here. We have a quorum.
All right, and Director Early, from what I understand, will be here shortly. So, okay, moving on now to public communication. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction. Robert, do we have any slips to speak?
There's no public comment.
No public comment. All right. So then the last bit of housekeeping item that I'm asked to disclose, are there any disclosures of any conflicts of interest by any members of this body? If there are none, then we will move on to the consent calendar. Are there any slips to speak on any items that are on consent?
There's no public comment.
No public comment, no hands raised. We have two items. We have the November 19th, 2025 meeting minutes, and we have a request for proposals for audit services. Is there a motion or any questions on either of the two consent items? I have a motion to move consent to my left and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, that takes care of consent. We do have, I believe there are three action items, right? Today, Robert, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, so with that, we will move on to the first action item, agenda item 3, which is the toll policy resolution, and I believe Kathleen is gonna start off or kick us off right with that one.
Just over to Sam. Good morning, directors. So yes, we have your first action item today, which is the first final toll policy resolution. As you recall, we've been working throughout this year in a format to be able to discuss these, bring forward facts and analysis, and then ask for incremental decisions on each of the toll policies. So this resolution is basically compilating those for you in a register for your adoption today. This is the timeline that was followed, and I'm going to highlight just a few brief comments on what we've been doing since November. We had public comment and engagement for feedback on the toll policy, and that those comments were due by December 8th. On December 10th, we received those comments, we reviewed them, and today we are asking for your approval. Just a few notes on the public comments. So over 800 people were emailed. Of that, 350 people opened the email and 15 commented. Most of the comments were related to the HOV policy, as well as some questions about how motorcycles would be treated in the lanes. As you know, the EIR included the 3+ HOVs, and an earlier policy also made motorcycles 100% discount. And I'll just note that the EIR process does have its own formal engagement of the public requirements. So throughout the process of being able to actually achieve that environmental clearance, the public is engaged in line with regulatory statute. So looking at that, the recommendation is to stick with the HOV 3+, the exemption for the motorcycles. This is what we talked about in the incremental policy approval that I mentioned, that this really secures that revenue generation, but also make sure that your lane is performing how it should with that congestion management tactic. And also just, it's very straightforward policy. So it's very easy to be able to communicate 3+ is free. And with that, we recommend that you adopt the toll policy resolution as shown in the register and as previously adopted without any other incremental changes.
Okay, very good. All right, are there any initial questions or comments by any of the directors here? If not, Robert, are there any slips to speak on this item?
There's no public comment.
No public comment. Okay, very good. All right, so we have a motion to move the staff recommendation. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Thank you so much for including the public comments. I'm always curious about that. Although we didn't get the number of responses I think we were hoping for, maybe a little bit higher, but I think they were important nonetheless. So thank you.
Yes, and if I may, Chair, just on a personal note, since this is my last meeting in this role, I just wanted to express my gratitude just briefly to the directors. To be able to accomplish this much in a year is really amazing. You guys have moved at breakneck speed, and I just wanted to express my appreciation for your partnership and your leadership, and I'm excited to see how it continues.
Thank you, Sam. I too, breakneck speed is exactly right, but I for sure. But I wanted to say thank you to you as well. I frankly, there were times I wasn't sure we were going to be able to move as quickly as we needed to. But you consistently reassured us that it was possible and you fought through it. So thank you for your staff support on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. All right, that is item 3. Item 4 is the request for proposals for the toll system integrator services. So Shadi, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. So this item 4, is the toll system integrator RFP. We are seeking authorization to release that RFP. But just to kind of recap of where we are, there are 3 parts to a toll system. There's the civil roadway infrastructure, that's the barriers and the gantries and the signs. There's the toll system integrator, which is what we're talking about today, which is, all the gadgets you see on the road. And then the back office, which is, the center where they're going to process all your transactions and your financial information. So as you know, Caltrans brought the Silver Gates as the roadway contractor. That's the construction you see out on the road today. And then last month, you took an action to go TCA for the back office. So today we're going to be talking about that middle part, which is the toll system procurement. One reminder as well, we had talked in previous board meetings about the need to have an overlap between the TSI and the civil roadway contractor while the civil roadway construction is still going on, in order to synchronize the 2 contracts, the design elements and the construction sequencing. So there's a desire for us to have as much overlap as possible, given that we're coming in a little late into the TSI procurement versus the construction that's already been going on. So we're trying to play catch up. This toll system integrator services has several elements: the design, installation, testing, and maintenance of toll equipment, the processing and auditing of the transactions that are generated on the roadside and sent to the TSA back office, and then monitoring of the operations going forward. So where we are today is that we're seeking your authorization to release that RFP with a plan to develop the RFP between now and January, release it in late January, have the bidding period go into March, and then go into the selection process, which includes contracts negotiation, and then come back to you in June for approval of the contract with the dollar amount and the terms. And then in July, if we stay on the timeline, in July we'll issue a kickoff notice to proceed to the selected vendor. Little bit of words on funding. The current overall program has funding for both the civil and the TSI elements. We've been working with our Caltrans partners on determining how much budget is available for this TSI contract. Once that number is finalized, we plan to enter into an agreement with Caltrans so that CARTA has access to those funds. And then depending on the TSI bid results, if we get bids that are higher than the available funding, we may have to go seek additional funding from other sources. Or if we're lucky, they come in within the available budget, then we'll be good to go. So we're presenting 3 options today. Option one is to authorize the release of this RFP and selection and require us to come back to you for a contract award in May. Option 2 is to defer the action on the RFP until February board meeting, and then, which is by the time we will have that discussion with Caltrans. And then option 3 is nominate a subcommittee from the board to authorize us to release that RFP once these negotiations are happening. And the reason why we're bringing this to a December board versus February board is because there's no January board, and we were trying to maximize that overlap with the civil contract as much as possible. So we're hoping we can still release that RFP in January if possible. So these are the three options. We would like to get your input on those.
All right,
And
very good.
if you have any questions, we'll have to answer.
Are there any initial questions by anybody here? I'll look to Robert, see if there's any public, so to speak.
There's no public comment.
No public comment. Right, well, very good. So we have a staff report and a recommendation, culmination of years plus work. Okay. All right, Director Kennedy's ready to go with the approval of option one. We have a motion and we're looking for a second. Second, all right, very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Well, very good. Thank you all for great work. Thank you, Kathleen, for helping teeing it up so that we can swing away. Here we go. So the RFP's on its way out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good work. All right, that is item 4. Then item 5 is the pre-toll revenue operations loan. And I believe, Eric, you're going to kick that one off?
That's right. Okay, well, thank you. So today before you, I wanted to talk about pre-revenue operations loans. We've talked a little bit about the ultimate system that we're going to have at CARTA with the revenue coming in from the toll operations. And so this will be an enterprise organization in the future. But there are some startup costs that are not part of the project costs for YOLO 80 that setting up a regional toll authority require. And so there is a need to have some revenue loans, pre-revenue loans over the next few years to get us to full operations. So what we're really talking about here today is partner loans up to a maximum of $14 million is what we're looking to in these partnership loan terms that are before you on the agenda for recommendation. I want to separate this out from the other components. SACOG has already provided $2.6 million in loans. And then the item that just came before this on the toll system integrator, the capital cost for that project is something that Caltrans is committed to pay for. And so this is something we're going to be coming back to that. The loans will not be paying for that part of the cost for CARTA. And then again, as I mentioned, once we get to toll revenue service, ideally mid-2028, toll revenues will be CARTA's primary source of income, as well as new counties join CARTA, they will have to share a portion of the cost. So right now there's portions of these costs that are specific to YOLO County and YOLO 80 project. Then there are others that are general overhead costs. Just kind of breaking down some of those expenditure into the categories that you'll see on the next budget slide. So again, this is really a lot of the upfront work that's across the system. There are some management and oversight things that as you hire a new executive director, we're going to have them working on things that are specific to YOLO 80. And so we'll be accounting for those costs separately in a way that YOLO 80 is paying for those costs that are specifically a benefit to them. And then the general costs would be things that would be part of the CARTA enterprise. So I want to put a couple of caveats on this draft budget forecast. This is based on what we brought to you back in May, but similar to the TSI item that was in front of you a moment ago, there are some major unknowns looking out over the next several years. And so I wouldn't focus too much on any particular line item here, other than to kind of demonstrate, in magnitudes of numbers, we're looking at between $4 and $5 million for the next 2 full fiscal years of funding. The toll revenue estimates come in, in the first partial year, about 13.6 million and grow from there. So this is a minority part of what it is for the first year of toll operations. And over time, it will shrink even more so in terms of the debt service obligations. So why are we talking about just partner loans with the jurisdictions in YOLO County? Essentially, we exhausted all of our options. The prior project costs are really a capitalized cost, and so it's not feasible, even if Caltrans was willing to have CARTA's costs all covered under that project, that one project. Similarly, as we looked into the California Infrastructure Bank, it also only funds capital costs, and SACOG, while it has provided 2 loans in the past, doesn't have the capacity to do that. And it's something we wanted to make sure there was more regional participation in. And the good news is there are partners across Yolo County that are interested in assisting with loans. These are not grants, but loans that will benefit CARTA's startup operations and ultimately provide benefit back to the county for participation. So the loan sheet is attached in the staff item, and I've just kind of summarized the slides here, but essentially our plan is to draw money only as needed. So as CARTA adopts its budget, we would kind of look at what the expenditures are for that year and then take an amount from the loan balances that we have available to us to fund that year's operations. And so as we look closer to the opening years of CARTA, there may be unanticipated costs that will require us to kind of take the full amount, but we're hoping to, continue to run CARTA as a lean organization. The terms of the loan, just to highlight some of the few things, are this is all modeled with graduated payments. And so there certainly is some trade-off cost to that, right? Because the repayment period will be stretched over time. But given that this is a new operation where we're going to have customers who have to get used to using the system and working out some of the upfront costs of setting up a tolling authority, it makes a lot of sense to have graduated payments in the first years and then have those kind of rise once CARTA is fully on its feet and able to cover those payments. This proposes a fixed interest rate of 8%. And this differs from what SACOG was providing, but again, because there's a bit of risk involved in these partner agencies participating in these loans, as well as the fact that there are other investment options for the agencies that we are seeking loans from. We think that this is a reasonable amount of risk given that we aren't able to go to the commercial credit market at this point, nor do we have other options for loans. And then finally, just reminding folks, while we have not had the waterfall discussion about kind of what costs will be done at the end of the day, ultimately the debt service obligations for any tolling facility kind of take precedent over a lot of other expenses. And so we want to make sure that those that are lending us money understand that they will get paid back. And then as we make other financial decisions for CARTA, that we understand that this is something we need to be mindful and make sure is a priority for revenue. So a few other quick context slides I wanted to provide. So previously, YOLO TD brought forward a traffic and revenue study that they had done independently to look at kind of what is anticipated over time. They provided a low and a high scenario. They're still working on developing a medium scenario, so that is not what's in the middle here. I just simply averaged those 2 low and high scenarios, but it kind of shows you that, again, as I've mentioned, over time, we're going to be able to make these loan payments as the toll revenue comes in. And for some further context of kind of what the rough share of costs are, you can see in the blue line, that is the graduated payments that we're recommending. And the green line that's increasing are the costs for operating, which really kind of track along with toll revenues because most of them are driven by the transactions. And so the more users we have of the system, the greater our cost for the back office system, the toll system integrator. And so the final main slide here I wanted to leave you with, and happy to answer any questions, is just kind of, what other options are there for CARTA? I think the good news is we are structuring these loans or recommending to structure the loans in a way where there's no prepayment penalty. So if CARTA has better than expected revenues coming in off of the YOLO 80 project, it could make a trade-off decision about paying off some of these loans sooner. But it also gives us the flexibility to pay them off over time. And you can see even if we were to go with fixed payments, there's not a ton of savings relative to the cost of going with graduated payments. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the loans. I think the final thing I'll just say before I turn it back over to you, Chair, is our plan is to start negotiating with the City of West Sacramento, and the city manager is here today as well in the audience. and come back to you after they have a chance to go to their council, and then any other jurisdictions that also might be doing loans. Our proposal is that they would first get approval as SACOG did, and then we'd finally come back to CARTA for approval of the loan documents. So happy to take any questions.
Got it. And so you would come back. Okay, very good.
Absolutely.
So any initial questions? I'm seeing none. I'll look for Rob to see if there's any requested slip. or
There's
slip to
no
speak.
public comment.
No public comment. Okay, well, then I will bring it back for additional or any.
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Jump right in. Yep.
Thank you, Eric. What's the current rate that CART is paying on the 2.6 million to SACOG?
So we have a variable rate. It's based on what we received from the Sacramento County investment pool. I believe it is in the between 4 and 4.5%.
So we're paying 4 to 4.5% right now. The proposal is to go to fixed 8%.
That is correct.
And do we have a sense of that variable rate, what kind of the bands are on how high and how low that goes with that investment pool?
I mean, it's hard to project over time, right? Given because it's based on what the county is able to receive in its own investments. You know, historically, it's been lower. Over the last several years, it's been sustained, I think, in a 3 to 4.5% range. And so I can't predict kind of where it will be, you know.
No, yeah, that was just, I'm not, asking you to predict. I was just curious on where
Yeah.
those numbers have fallen historically compared to kind of what we're being presented with as the only option is what I'm hearing you say, is that 8% is what has been negotiated with. Has it been negotiated with
Yeah,
partner agencies and they've all agreed that 8% is a reasonable number?
Correct. So for a bit of context, again, because the Yolo County is the area where the project is, the approach we took is we met with all of the city managers, the county executive from Yolo County and Yolo TD, and kind of said, you know, how would you like to participate? Would you like to each enter into agreements with us and negotiate on that? And their preference was we would like a single set of terms that everybody would get the same terms. And we met and reviewed the terms that are in front of you today, and they were all in agreement that this is what they would participate in.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. And I think that it's a tough position to be in when we don't have other options, right? You're negotiating with your hands tied behind your back around 8%, which I don't think is reasonable. I tend to, that I'm going to support it, but I just want to be on the record saying that I do think that it's not a reasonable number for us. I mean, I think when you look at what the investment pools are and what other jurisdictions are having or where jurisdictions invest their dollars, the vast majority of money coming sniffing close to 8%. And it's my fiduciary responsibility as a member of this board to make sure that CARTA is set up right in a position to be successful over time. And I'm not saying that this is making it non-successful. At a graduated payment, we're paying $13 million in interest, which goes straight to excess toll revenue and where those dollars can be spent back in our community. So it's a tough pill to swallow. And I wish that we were able to get other jurisdictions in Yolo County to back down from the 8%, but I understand that that's not going to happen. And we're in a situation where if we don't move this forward, we don't have the dollars or another option to move it forward. So I think, again, it's unfortunate that that's where this landed. And I hope that as these are paid off and we move forward, that that 13 million can be reduced in a certain way that brings those dollars back into our jurisdictions to better support equity programs and social justice programs that we have committed to doing all along.
Understood. Thank you.
Understood. All right, any other comments? Did I ask for public? I did.
You
Okay.
did.
Yeah, so, yes, ma'am.
I just want to echo Director Chapman's comments. I think that 8% is high. And I understand there's a lot of uncertainty with the new project and in the jurisdiction, but what does that cash flow look like? I mean, does that help us in negotiating? I mean, since we have secured money from Caltrans and from other sources, does that help us with at all?
Essentially we have no cash flow. So once SACOG's loans are exhausted this current fiscal year, we're able to cover our costs basically through the beginning of next calendar year. But to even close out the current fiscal year, we need to secure the first $1 million in loans to take care of the expenses we have. Because, for instance, the contract we have for the program support with Kimley Horn that you just heard from Shadi on, those costs are not eligible to be repaid with the Caltrans costs. We're working with Caltrans on how the cash flow will work with the toll system integrator contract, but really we won't be able to use those dollars to help with cash flow. So there is a hole between what the project is covering and what CARTA's costs are. And so we're trying to, just to speak to Director Chapman's comments as well, I think we want to bring back, when we bring to you in February and March, a draft budget, as lean as possible as we can. But there is still a gap there. And so that's what we're managing against.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I just, again, Director Chapman's comments, I think maybe coming back in February and giving us an update, I think would be incredibly helpful. Obviously, we don't know what the market looks like, but 8% is significant, and that's money that can be going into our community and not into, private equity, so.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And I apologize, Eric, if I missed this. I know in the staff report under the tag discussion, there was conversation in the tag about the current 2.6 million being bought up by partner agencies.
Right.
And I apologize if I missed this. Was that addressed? I'm not comfortable with that getting bought out. I mean, given that it's at whatever, 4%. So is that can you kind of guide me where that's in here, or if that's still an option for a jurisdiction to buy out the 2.6 million?
So that really is something that is ultimately, a CARTA decision, right? So it's not inherently baked into the loan agreement, right? And so, for instance, if we were to bring back to you a budget for next fiscal year and say, here are the costs, and one of the things that we also want to do is kind of buy out the SACOG loans, that would be a policy decision for you. And so it's not inherently baked in as a provision to the loans. I think what we just wanted to express by disclosing that is that the partner agencies in YOLO were willing to do that and bake that into the total amount CARTA borrowed. But I hear the feedback from the other CARTA members that they're not interested in that. And so ultimately it's CARTA's call. SACOG can't ask for that repayment to happen unilaterally. And so if the desire is not there to buy out the loans, then I think ultimately that's a decision between the CARTA board and the SACOG board if they wanted to renegotiate that current loan that we have.
So under that scenario, the representative from SACOG would be approached by a jurisdiction, right, in Yolo County saying they want to buy out the $2.6 million loan, and then SACOG would bring that to this board to have that conversation?
No, I don't think it's as involved as that. I think really the most likely scenario, and feel free to jump in here, James, right? But if SACOG, for instance, said, hey, we really have a pressing need at SACOG that we could benefit from having $2.6 million, we would come to CARTA and say, you know what, we have a trade-off. There's a regional need to have a greater amount of money than we have in the SACOG funds. And so we would like to get that money back from CARTA. And ultimately it would be CARTA's decision on whether to allow that buyout or not. I don't think it would be independently brought forward. It's just that the openness is there, but I think I'm hearing feedback that there's not the desire to move forward that as a priority unless there's a pressing need from SACOG.
And that comes to this board for approval?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Chair
So,
Villegas,
yeah.
if I can, and Director Chapman and Director Chalmers, I appreciate your concerns. We do. We hear those. If you remember about a year ago, we were trying to figure out how do we get basically from the two SACOG loans that have been provided at a very favorable interest rate, to be clear, to revenue service, but then some, right? Past 2028. And Eric and I were very concerned that we might not even be able to stand up the operations of the toll agency. So we had a couple things in mind. One is approach every jurisdiction and agency in Yolo County where the project is based, right? To try to sort of make a pitch in terms of these loans. Second is to actually try to get our partners at Caltrans and D3 to get as much of the capital cost into the project cost as possible. And third, to avoid having to go to the IBank, to the California Infrastructure Bank. We did not want that to be yet another set of debt on the books. And so I appreciate 8% sounds high. I will say, I think the SACOG loan is very favorable terms. And I think people are building in both risk because the the Leif and wherever else you are is pretty guaranteed, and this is not, right? To be very honest. But I also think it's not too far off, I think, where some of our partner agencies have been in terms of their returns. Now, again, ask all the questions you want, and I appreciate it. Feels like there's no other options. But that's kind of, I'm happier that we actually are in a place where we can make the financing for CARTA work, and you've got 4 years of runway. And again, remember, that was partly to do executive director recruitment as well, have enough resources.
And Mr. Chair, if I could maybe just speak to the $13 million in interest costs. Again, we've really tried to go as conservative as possible in modeling this to show you the maximum costs. In addition to what I mentioned with the graduated payments, they're also deferred by 3 years. And so there will be toll revenue coming into this organization. And so if that is able to begin payment sooner, that alone, in addition to not just changing the graduated terms, could significantly reduce the cost. So
Yes.
we can bring
Yeah.
back that information perhaps with the new executive director on a financial update every year on kind of where you're at with that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. I was going to address that. Thank you for bringing that up, Eric, because I do think that as we contemplate around the corner next year, the waterfall framework, certainly if that becomes an issue that we want to address and kind of, since we won't encounter any prepayment penalties, that is certainly something we can embed into the waterfall system that we will have to create that dictates precisely how we use our revenues. And if that is the will of the board, we can certainly go down that route to chip away at some of the costs that otherwise are going to be borne by the interest payment. So, okay, well, very good. Let's see. So no public comment. Are there any questions, comments? A lot of silence over here. Was it good? All right. And it's easy to say. Well, I want to say thank you to the staff. A year ago, as you said, James, we said, we need to move very quickly and we need to explore all of the options with which we can make this thing happen. It's usually in government, it's less than perfect. But I think it's a pretty good proposal given where we are in light of the fact we are moving at breakneck speed. I don't know, you called it a screaming deal 8 months ago. Is it still a screaming deal?
I think you'll have to ask City Manager Laurel if he thinks it's a
Okay.
screaming deal.
All right, fair enough. Not for everybody, maybe. Okay. All right. So city manager is here. I don't think there's any questions for him. So with that, then we are looking for any final comments or a motion to move forward.
I make a motion.
All right. So we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a second. You got that, Robert? All right. So we have a motion, a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, so so the clerk note 1 abstention. Very good.
Thank you.
Otherwise, everybody else is good? Yep, okay. Non-voting, got it. All right, so that takes care of the pre-tolling revenue operations loan. That was item 5. Item 6 is the toll program manager's report. Kathleen, you're next.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we've reached the end of the calendar year and you're also in a bit of a transition here at CARTA. So as Sam noted in her staff report, that consultant contract's coming to an end. You had your new consultant project manager, Shadi Chasbeck, up for item 4. And so we're also having a transition at the staff level. So this will be my last meeting as your toll program manager. And so the chair has kindly indulged me in some brief remarks to sort of, honor the years that we've worked together and look ahead. So we all have important work to do. I'll keep it very, very brief, but just want, one horn too on our success and then one little bit of advice to you all looking down the next few years of CARTA. So last year, the YOLO 80 project team did what a lot of folks still think is impossible, right? We beat that buzzer on that $86 million and kept it for our region and took this project to construction. And as is the case always with this project, as soon as we cleared one hurdle, we found ourselves in front of the next one. And so for me, that was really looking at the fact that we had no idea how we were going to operate this toll lane and we were building it, right? We had no sense of what our goals or policies would be, no idea who was going to process our toll transactions, no sense of how we were going to staff CARTA or how we were going to pay for it. And so we have worked together over the last 2 years, and in the last 3 board meetings, you all have really chipped away and buttoned up all of those major decisions. You've selected your back office. Today, you authorize staff to release a request for proposals for your toll system vendor. You're well on your way to recruiting your executive director, and you've just approved loan terms to actually fund CARTA to pay for any of that, right? And so I really want to recognize the tremendous amount of work that you all as a board and the technical advisory group and the staff have done to get that done. Lesser regions than us take years and years and years arguing about these things, and I'm extremely proud and impressed that we have been able to get this done and keep YOLO 80 on schedule. And you all should be very proud as well. I think looking ahead, one little bit of advice. When I stood in front of the SACOG board and asked them to make CARTA last year, we asked that we make CARTA differently, right? That we pull up a chair for Caltrans and that we pull up a chair for our counties who don't have toll corridors yet, but will in the future. And while I think that partnership has benefited us over the last 2 years, I think the hardest work of that partnership is still in front of you, right? There will be days when your colleagues across the river are going to get voting seats, and when we have to negotiate hard agreements with Caltrans, and when Placer and El Dorado get to decide on how exactly they want to interact with CARTA as the toll system grows. And so I just want to remind you that the reason that we built this regionally, even though other tolling authorities don't, is because these toll corridors don't just belong to Caltrans, and they don't just belong to the county that they're in. They belong to all of our neighbors, right? We all use all of them. And so having this big table and sitting together and making these decisions as a region is really powerful and providing an ultimate benefit to our customers. And so just encourage you to share power, as hard as it is, as you keep moving forward through this process. So I'm not going anywhere. I still work at SACOG. I'll still work on tolling. So you'll see me in the audience at CARTA board meetings. But while I hope to have a very long career serving this region, I already know that these 2 years with you at CARTA will be one of my highlights. And so I just want to thank you for the trust and for the partnership.
Very nice. Thank you, Catalina. I think, well, I'll say certainly on behalf of the work that's gone into getting us to where we are today, to this sort of next launch point. I'm a little nervous by you saying the real work is just about to begin. I thought we'd been working pretty hard, but I have no doubt that if we are trying to do the right thing for the region, as you said, and appropriately so, the work will always continue. So thank you for getting us to where we are. I think you've been very instrumental in framing it in a very simple way that keeps us focused on what tasks are ahead of us incrementally so that we get to where we are today. And so I want to say thank you. All right. Nothing from this side over here. Everybody's good.
If I could just really quickly, Chair, Kathleen, I just want to say thank you very much for all of your leadership over the last couple of years. I've had the great fortune over 25 years to work on tolling and pricing across the US with dozens of boards. And it's no short statement to say you wouldn't be where you're at with all of your great leadership and decision-making without Kathleen's staffing and resources and hard work. So I really do thank you for everything you've done. And I hope if you're in the audience, just sit in the front row, okay? Just don't be too far back. But thanks so much for everything. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you on this.
So,
I guess I'd also like to thank Kathleen. I'm always amazed by your leadership and ability to educate all of us on very difficult topics. And it's been a pleasure to learn from you over the past couple of years. As a kind of outside observer to this group, it's been really amazing to watch you grow into that position and get us through some very difficult conversations and a great success. So thank you very much.
You're not going to let her have the last word. Kathleen, we couldn't have done it without you. Counselor, we don't build toll lanes as it's something different for us. We talk about breakneck speed. This was just incredible, and definitely couldn't do it without you.
okay. All right. Very good. So with that's our last open session item. We do have one closed session item. So so we're not wrapping it up quite yet. I think will there be anything to report out? Are we gonna have to report out on any action? I don't know. We're not. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and move and take about 2 minutes we have to clear out the room. Is that how we're gonna do this?
Correct. Yeah.
Clear out the room. So we are done officially with our official open session items, the agenda.
All right, we are back live streaming.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you for that. So we have nothing to report out of closed session at this juncture. There's no other official items on the agenda, so that therefore the next meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. So with that, we are